Once, in the far reaches of a crumbling kingdom, nestled between thick woods and grey misty hills, lay the half-forgotten village of Mir. Mir was the sort of place that existed more in memory than in maps. A cluster of crooked houses, half-timbered and moss-grown, where time dragged its feet like an old farmer through snow. The people of Mir rarely travelled. They sowed, reaped, prayed, and died within the same few miles, and nothing new ever arrived. That was why, one autumn evening when the sky bruised with storm and the wind howled like a wounded beast, a wandering old man standing at the edge of the dirt road with his thumb out was a sight both pitiful and strange. He was wrapped in a thick woolen cloak, stained from the journey. His face was long, sunken, and wind-bitten. His right hand gripped a crooked crutch, carved from an ash tree, worn smooth from years of use. His eyes, though clouded with age, still bore a keen light, as if watching for something the rest of the world no longer remembered. He stood there in silence, where the road twisted away toward the mountains, hoping for a cart, a traveler, a miracle. But no one passed, not until the gurgling sound of rustling and dragging reached his ears, a curious shuffle low to the ground. The old man turned slowly. From the hedgerow came a small, wiry cat. She was a scrawny tabby, striped like an autumn leaf, with a torn ear and wide, cautious eyes. Between her teeth she dragged a greasy sack that scraped against the stones. The cat did not meow. She did not beg. She merely passed the old man without haste, dragging her prize inch by inch as though it were gold. The old man watched her for a long time. Then ever so slowly he bent down and sat at the roadside. "You and I," he said in a voice made of gravel and moss, "we know something of hunger, don't we?" The cat paused, but did not answer. "Do you mind if I walk a bit with you?" he asked. And with that, the man picked up his crutch, groaned as he stood, and followed the cat as she dragged the sack down the road, both figures swallowed gradually by the mist. They traveled like that for several days, the cat always ahead, always dragging her sack, the man limping behind, leaning heavy on his crutch. They slept beneath trees, in the hollows of ruined chapels, and once in a shepherd's abandoned hut. They ate whatever the cat found, which was, somehow, always, just enough for both of them. Villagers along the way peered from behind shutters, frightened or amused. Children whispered that the man was a ghost and the cat his familiar, but none dared to speak to him. It was in the village of Dunmire, on the edge of a wide and silent lake, that they stopped. The village had no inn, only a chapel and a dusty square with a dry fountain. There, in the fountain's empty basin, sat a boy. His name was Cadman. He had not spoken in many moons, not since his parents had perished in a fire that had spared him alone. He was often called the Silent, and though people pitied him, they feared the grief in his eyes. When the old man saw him, he approached slowly, not with pity, but with recognition. The cat dropped her sack at the boy's feet, sniffed, and curled up in his lap without invitation. The boy looked down, startled. "She likes grief," said the old man, not unkindly. "It smells like something gone soft and honest." The boy said nothing, but his hands rested gently on the cat's back. "She follows what others throw away," the old man added, his eyes fixed on the boy now. "She knows that there is always something inside the discarded, something that still nourishes." He paused, breathing. "I used to think I walked because I wanted to arrive somewhere," he said, "but it isn't that. I walk because staying still would mean facing the thing I cannot mend, and so I became a traveler." Still no response from the boy, but his gaze had softened, and his fingers now scratched behind the cat's ear. The old man pulled from his cloak a withered apple, bruised but whole. "Sometimes we carry things we think are burdens," he said, handing it to the boy, "but it's not always clear whether we carry them or they carry us." The boy took the apple. His lips moved. A single word, dry as dust, escaped. "Why?" The old man did not smile, but his eyes did. "Because silence," he said, "is not the absence of words. It is the weight of what was never spoken." And with that, he stood up, groaning. The cat leapt from the boy's lap, collected her sack, and resumed her dragging. The boy remained seated, the apple resting in his hand, his gaze following them until they disappeared beyond the village. Years passed. The boy grew. The old man was not seen again. But the villagers of Dunmire spoke of the time Cadman began to speak, not much, and always softly, but with the strange wisdom of someone who had lost much and yet never lost himself entirely. He became a healer, a listener. People traveled to ask him questions they could not speak aloud, and when they did, he would sometimes offer them an apple, a smile, or a silence that felt like shelter. No one remembered the old man's name, but a carving appeared years later at the side of the old chapel, a simple figure of a crutch, and beside it a cat with a torn ear dragging a sack across the stones. And the moral of this story is, sometimes the ones who appear most burdened carry the richest truths, and what the world throws away in silence, in grief, in brokenness, often hides the key to what we are most hungry for. To walk beside the cast-offs is to find meaning not in splendor but in persistence, and to feed another even with scraps is to mend the soul in ways palaces never could.